In this video presentation, I address you as a sovereign man or woman because that's what you are when you realize it and own it. And I will shed some light on how you can achieve wealth sovereignty, how you as a sovereign man or woman can secure and protect your wealth, can secure the value and rights of your life and your livelihood, where you can own and hold wealth free and independent from any tax claims and liabilities, free and independent from any other authority that seeks a portion of your wealth. Greetings and welcome. My name is Russell Paul Arthur. I am from Grace Sovereignty Academy, and I teach people how to lawfully secure their wealth in order to minimize and even nullify tax. Because paying too much tax is the largest roadblock to prosperity. Tax kills prosperity. Tax diminishes your wealth, and wealth is where you have the resources and means to express your sovereign freedoms. Because we do live in a world where it costs to live and do things. You can't have anything, you can't do anything or go anywhere in this world unless you have the means to do so. And in this poorly organized world, money has become the measure of freedom and choice. Money equals freedom and choice. The less money you have, the less freedom and choice you have. The more money you have, the more freedom and choice you have. Therefore, it stands the good reason that you would want more money. You would want to be wealthy so that you can have the resources and means to have more freedom and choice, not just for yourself, but also for those you love and care for. Achieving more wealth so that you can have more freedom and choice can be achieved in two ways. You can gain wealth or you can retain wealth. We can all gain wealth when we create, earn and invest in anything of tangible and appreciable value. We can all retain wealth when we hold on to and save value. And reducing your tax bill is how you can retain value, how you can protect your wealth. Knowing how to reduce tax in a world of ever increasing taxes is essential to retain value. The less tax you pay, the more value you can retain. And if you don't know how to minimize or even nullify tax, unless you have a business that flows with high value income, your chances of building and preserving wealth are slim and difficult. Here is what you need to know about tax. Tax is a negative drag on everything that you earn and own. This means even though you are making a positive gain in your life, you are making money and accruing value. When it comes to paying tax, whether that be income tax, capital gains tax, corporate tax, commercial tax, and the list goes on, you are making a loss. You are receiving in one hand and you are losing in the other hand. Tax is a form of legal extortion that robs you at every corner and turn. And when you pay tax at the highest rates, your wealth gets plundered by the inland revenue. Across your entire lifetime, your entire net worth through taxation can be depleted by anywhere between 40 to 80%. And that is no exaggeration. Your wealth is 40 to 80% down because of the losses that you incur through tax. But this also means your wealth could be 40 to 80% up if you paid less tax. So it is in your best interest to know how to lawfully avoid paying tax. Now, most people have this negative reaction to the idea of avoiding tax. Most people have associated some type of fear or guilt or wrongdoing to the idea of tax avoidance, as if it were a bad and wrong thing to do. But this just isn't the case. Avoiding tax is a legitimate thing to do. There is nothing wrong with tax avoidance, because tax avoidance is not tax evasion. Tax avoidance is to simply avoid any event where there is a tax implication. Whereas tax evasion is when we do not pay tax or pay less tax than what the law permits. Tax evasion happens when we make fraudulent tax reports. Tax evasion is done with the intention to defraud the taxman. Tax evasion is a legislated crime that comes with severe penalties. And so, to be absolutely clear, nothing that I state here implies or expresses any advice or guidance on how to evade tax. Right now, I am talking about tax avoidance. So, how can you lawfully avoid tax so that you pay less tax, so that you retain more money, so that you can become more prosperous? Well, first of all, we need to make an important distinction. In this world, there are registered taxpayers who must legally pay tax, and there are people who are not registered for tax, who are not legally required to pay tax. Right now, you as a living man or woman, you are registered in a public domain as a citizen of the state, where you as a citizen are legally obligated to register for tax. As a registered taxpayer, you are legally bound to all the tax codes, rules and regulations that are attached to any property or business, attached to any value that you create, earn and own in your name as a citizen, as a registered taxpayer, where you personally are liable to pay any taxes raised and charged against you as a citizen. If you have been watching my other videos, you will already know that you are a living man and woman and not a citizen. The citizen is a corporate legal entity and a character of law. The citizen is a title created by the state. The citizen is a franchise of the state, and this means the state has an interest and claim over everything that you earn, own and do as a citizen in the public domain, and where the state has attached tax codes and claims to any citizen that registers for tax. As a citizen, unless you know how to structure the affairs of your life to protect your wealth, you are liable to pay the highest tax rates that greatly diminishes your wealth. Now, as a citizen, there are many ways for you to restructure your wealth into lawful entities that can minimize your risk and exposure to tax liabilities and claims. However, most of these lawful entities have been created and classified by the state as tax-paying entities, but there is another way. There is another way for you to secure and protect your wealth with unique lawful entities that are not registered for tax purpose, that are not legally required to register for tax, where you can minimize or even nullify tax. And this way involves you achieving personal sovereignty so that you can establish a private estate to hold and secure your wealth free and independent from the tax liabilities of the public domain. Doing so where you can still operate in the public domain, still get involved with business activities and investments, still create, earn and build wealth, still contribute to society with the intention to provide a product or service that helps and improves the quality of life for people, except for you have lawfully restructured the matters of your life to elevate and protect your status, standing and capacity in relation to the world that you live in. It is possible for you to achieve personal sovereignty and establish a private estate where you no longer operate with the diminished status, standing and capacity of a citizen, where you as a sovereign man or woman can undergo a lawful procedure to sever and separate your life from all the tax liabilities, from all the tax codes, rules and regulations that are attached to the citizen. Rather than operate as a citizen with a public estate, you can relinquish personal ownership of your property, assets, interests and income and secure them within a private estate, where effectively you convert a public estate into a private estate that exists and operates in its own private domain, protected by private contract law. This means a private estate is not part of the public domain, and therefore a private estate is free, independent, and immune to the tax liabilities of the public domain. This means you can hold wealth within a private estate where your wealth is protected from the tax liabilities of the public domain. When you, as a sovereign man or woman, operate in this world with a private estate, you no longer participate in the public domain as a citizen. You instead rearrange the equity and rights of any property, business, and income to be restructured into lawful entities that are designed and created to lawfully avoid and minimize tax, where you can qualify for tax relief, tax incentives, and tax exemptions whenever you, as a sovereign man or woman with a private estate, engage with a public activity. Instead of you paying 40 to 80% in tax as a citizen of the state, you can get the tax bill down to around 20% and sometimes even less when you are sovereign with a private estate. And the minimization of tax means the preservation of wealth. The preservation of wealth equals more freedom and choice. The other unique aspect of a private estate is that when you take active steps as a sovereign man or woman to secure your wealth into a private estate, your wealth is protected within a private and sovereign venue and jurisdiction. And venue simply means where a law is decided, and jurisdiction simply means what law is decided. You, as a sovereign, can hold wealth in your own venue and jurisdiction. You can decide what laws apply to your wealth. You can restructure your wealth into a venue and jurisdiction that is free and independent from the Crown, state, and public domain. In fact, wealthy people often improve their venue and jurisdiction to protect the value and rights of their wealth. They will leave one country to live in another country where the venue and jurisdiction is much more favourable and with lower tax rates. They may even live in one country but establish a business in a different country because the tax rates and treatment is more favourable in terms of protecting the value and rights of their wealth. This means you too can lawfully avoid paying high tax rates. You can lawfully protect the value and rights of your wealth by relocating to a different venue and jurisdiction. However, and unbeknownst to most people, a change of venue and jurisdiction is not limited to a change of location. You do not have to relocate to a different country or state in order to gain the benefit of a better venue and jurisdiction. Because venue and jurisdiction is not so much about location, it is about who has the authority to determine the law that applies to a situation or a person. And that is why whenever you register your property, business, or income as a citizen of the state, you are also registering the value and rights of your wealth to be governed by the venue and jurisdiction of that state. You lose sovereign authority over your wealth. If you want to safeguard the value and rights of your wealth, you would be more conscious, diligent, and deliberate about where you hold and operate your wealth. If you want to reclaim and retain sovereign authority over your wealth, then you must remove your wealth from any other venue and jurisdiction that has a legitimate claim over your wealth. Inside our Grace Sovereignty Academy, we teach our sovereign members on how they can restructure the equity and rights of their wealth, how they can hold and control the value and rights of their property, assets, interests, and money into a private and sovereign venue and jurisdiction that is independent from and separate to any other venue and jurisdiction in this world. Anyone that becomes sovereign is no longer a citizen. no longer a registered taxpayer, and no longer subject to any tax rulings or tax codes of a public venue and jurisdiction. A sovereign man or woman is the supreme ruler with paramount authority over the matters of his or her life. A sovereign man or woman has mastered and implemented the practical strategies and procedures to restructure wealth into a sovereign environment that is immune to claims and liabilities, with the intention of building and preserving a legacy of wealth that provides peace and prosperity for many generations to come, which is certainly much better than shuffling around as a citizen that is shackled to the chains of taxation, whilst being whipped into place by a corrupt system that operates on a dishonourable mantra of "screw you, pay me." Unless that is, of course, you like whips and chains. And listen, I've got to be upfront with you. Breaking free from the chains of citizenship, gaining your sovereign freedoms and rights, and protecting your wealth does require a high degree of estate planning. It does take many months and years of studying and comprehending complex lawful procedures in order for you to know, execute, and reorganize the affairs of your life. It requires you to correct your lawful status, standing, and capacity in this world. It requires you to endure the pains of progress. However, it is all worth it if it means that you can secure and protect the value and rights of your wealth, if it means that you can retain 40 to 80% of your value across your entire lifetime, if it means that you can gain more freedom and choice for you and those you love and serve. So if you think and you feel achieving personal sovereignty and establishing a private estate to secure your wealth is the right move for you, and you would like to learn more, then I would love to hear from you. It would be an honour for me to guide and support you on how to restructure your life to become the sovereign man or woman that you truly are. So please do reach out, and in the meantime, wishing you and yours the very best.